So, what do we do about climate change? I'm Elton Sherwin, I'm a venture capitalist, the author of Addicted to Energy, and I want to propose to you here today a simple three-point plan. So despite efficiency gains and stronger regulation, the world's emissions of greenhouse gases continue to go up. Will anything reverse this trend? If we don't do something, if we continue on the current trends here and in China and in India and in Eastern Europe, we will melt the North Pole and we're going to leave a different planet for our children and for our grandchildren. So one of the most common questions that I get is, what should we do about the climate crisis? And the sister question, what should we do about American energy security? So I wrote a book called Addicted to Energy. It's written as a letter of advice to a young governor. It makes over 70 policy recommendations. Unfortunately, no politician wants a 70-point plan. So here are the big three in 3 minutes. Get these right, and we protect the planet, we protect our children, and we grow the economy. Number one is a simple, universal, gradually increasing carbon tax. One that starts low and increases modestly each year, giving back most of the proceeds to the taxpayers. It's a modest pollution fee, and it goes up a bit each year. This has big economic benefits. It shifts the burden of taxation from labor to pollution. Those of you who followed this have known over the last 4 decades we've shifted the burden of American taxation to labor, and we need to shift it away from labor. This is a good way to do it, good for American workers, good for economic growth. The second thing we need to do is substitute natural gas for both coal and oil. So we need to convert coal-fired power plants to natural gas. This cuts the CO2 emissions in half. So per electron produced, per kilowatt hour, coal produces twice as much CO2 as natural gas. When you shift from coal to natural gas, you dramatically reduce virtually every other air pollutant and component of smog. We should be using natural gas in many more vehicles. As the EPA says, it cuts carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and again, virtually every component of air pollution and carcinogen. Natural gas is cheap. It's a lot cheaper than gasoline or diesel. Right now, it's sitting per MPG equivalent at about a 4-fold difference between oil and natural gas. So we should be using natural gas for all fleets that overnight in place. This would include taxis, buses, local delivery trucks, service vehicles, and vans. And you may have seen AT&T is converting over 15,000 of its vehicles to compressed natural gas. Natural gas is domestic. It creates many more jobs than importing oil from our major oil import partners, Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. Number 3, finally, we should benchmark and disclose the energy consumption of all commercial buildings. So the building stock in the U.S. is responsible for a little bit more than a third of our CO2 emissions. Buildings are incredibly wasteful. Any of you that are doubtful of that can walk out of this room down to the end of the hallway and observe 100 light bulbs that are on in a room that is completely lit from outside lighting. Most of the coal that's burnt in the U.S. Is then turned around, used to produce electricity that's then wasted in buildings. So New York and San Francisco have innovative programs where they are rating all of their commercial buildings and then publishing the scores on the benchmarking of the buildings. This is very simple, it's incredibly inexpensive, it's easy, it should be the law of the land, and it motivates a lot of change. Benchmarking buildings and then disclosing the results creates jobs, it creates local jobs. It's very hard, if not impossible, to offshore building retrofits. Well, that's it. That's what we need to do. It'll cut our foreign oil imports, it'll cut the trade deficit, it protects the planet, it'll protect our children and our grandchildren, it'll grow the economy, and it'll create many more middle-class, high-paying white-collar and blue-collar jobs. It's a simple plan. A carbon tax where you give the proceeds back to the taxpayers, a switch to clean domestic natural gas in both vehicles and power plants, and a scheme to grade and disclose the competitiveness of our commercial building stock. Should we do more? Yes, I have a 70-point plan if you'd like to read it. But those are the big three: a carbon tax, a switch to natural gas, and the grading of our buildings. Thank you.